Today, we explore a compelling and tragic story from World War II, the tale of the Shōkaku, a powerful aircraft carrier of the Imperial Japanese Navy. Known as the soaring crane, this ship symbolized Japan's naval dominance in the early stages of the Pacific War. Yet, no matter how high it soared, it couldn't escape the harsh realities of warfare. This story retraces the events that led to its sinking, offering a look into the human experiences behind the historical conflict. On June 13, 1944, the advanced aircraft carrier Taiho departed from Tawi-Tawi anchorage in the southwestern Philippines, accompanied by Zuikaku and Shōkaku, along with cruisers and destroyers. Taiho served as the flagship for Vice Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa, as they moved northeast with other units of Japan's first mobile fleet. By June 15th, U.S. forces had begun their assault on Saipan in the Marianas. Losing Saipan would be a major blow for Japan, as it would allow American bombers to reach Japan's home islands. In response, Ozawa launched Operation Eigo, a plan to lure the American fleet into a position favorable for a Japanese counterattack. He aimed not only to protect Saipan, but also to inflict heavy damage on the U.S. Navy. However, the plan faced two major problems: weakened naval strength and a shortage of fuel. Japan's Navy had suffered heavy losses at Midway, Guadalcanal, and elsewhere. On top of that, American submarines had devastated Japan's merchant fleet, forcing the Japanese Navy to rely on low-grade crude oil from Borneo, which damaged engines and produced toxic fumes. Despite these issues, Ozawa pressed forward. Japan assembled 9 carriers, 5 battleships, 10 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and numerous destroyers under the 1st Mobile Fleet to confront the U.S. 7th Fleet, led by Admiral Raymond A. Spruance. The U.S. force was formidable, with 15 aircraft carriers, 7 modern battleships, and 956 carrier aircraft, roughly double the aerial strength of the Japanese. Worried about a Japanese fleet bypassing his forces and striking the invasion fleet off Saipan, Spruance adjusted his carrier positions. Ozawa understood the Americans would rely on carrier-based aircraft and planned to support his fleet with more than 500 land-based aircraft stationed at Guam, Yap, and Rota. These aircraft were ordered to weaken the American fleet before the Japanese Navy arrived. He also hoped his carrier planes' longer range would allow them to strike before the Americans could retaliate. The Japanese fleet refueled in the Philippines and began its eastward journey. Ozawa's carriers passed through the San Bernardino Strait, while his battleships moved south through the Surigao Strait. American submarines stationed near the Philippines detected both groups, signaling an approaching confrontation later known as the Battle of the Philippine Sea. Back in Pearl Harbor, Admiral Charles A. Lockwood, commander of American submarine forces, studied a map of the Philippine Sea. He predicted any Japanese fleet heading for Saipan would pass through a specific area and assigned 4 submarines, Albacore, Finback, Bang, and Stingray, to monitor a square patrol grid in that region. Based on new intelligence, the patrol zone was later shifted 100 miles south. Another submarine, Cavalla, not originally part of this group, would soon play a crucial role. Cavalla had departed Midway on her first war patrol on June 4, 1944, under the command of Lieutenant Commander Herman J. Kostler. Built in Groton, Connecticut, and commissioned in February 1944, she was one of 73 Gato-class submarines. With a length of 311 feet and a standard displacement of 1,526 tons, she could reach over 20 knots on the surface, but less than 9 knots submerged. Her arsenal included 10 torpedo tubes, a deck gun, and anti-aircraft weapons. After completing tests and training, Cavalla traveled to Pearl Harbor and then to Midway to begin her patrol. On June 8, she entered a 500-mile radius around Japanese-held Marcus Island. Her lookouts remained watchful for enemy aircraft, and she spent most daylight hours cruising on the surface. On one occasion, she struck a whale, causing no apparent damage. On June 14th, worsening weather forced Cavalla to submerge for most of the day. By mid-afternoon, conditions improved, and she surfaced. That evening, Cavalla received a message from the submarine Flying Fish about a surface contact. Costler altered course to investigate. By midnight, seas had calmed, and Cavalla increased speed to make up for lost time. By June 15th, Cavalla reached her designated patrol zone. She collaborated with another submarine, Pipefish, to search for enemy vessels, but found nothing and returned to her assigned sector. Around midnight, Cavalla spotted a convoy, possibly consisting of 2 tankers and 3 escorts. Costler shadowed the group into June 17th, but had to dive to avoid a destroyer and lost the target. He pursued them until the afternoon before receiving orders to change patrol zones. Unbeknownst to him, the convoy was supplying Admiral Ozawa's fleet. Thanks to submarine reports, Spruance was confident a major Japanese fleet was approaching, although aircraft reconnaissance couldn't yet pinpoint the carrier's locations. Japanese float planes were sighted, suggesting the fleet was nearby. On June 17th, Ozawa kept his fleet moving east, staying out of range of American carriers until the time was right to strike. That evening, Costler gave up the pursuit of the convoy. Just before 8 p.m., Cavalla's radar picked up a contact about 30,000 yards away, faint and intermittent. Costler turned toward it and increased speed. As the distance closed, more radar blips appeared, revealing a task force zigzagging at 19 knots. By 8:15 p.m., Cavalla identified 7 large ships. Costler deduced one was an aircraft carrier, likely accompanied by battleships and cruisers. The carrier was only 15,000 yards away, and Costler knew he had found something important. Realizing no one else had reported this task force, he chose not to attack but instead surfaced to send a contact report. It was a difficult choice, but he believed it was necessary for the larger mission. By 9:30 p.m., the task force had passed, except for 2 fast ships, likely destroyers, at the rear. After nearly an hour of evasive maneuvers, Costler managed to shake them and surface. Finally, he transmitted a full report to Pearl Harbor. The following day passed without incident, as Cavalla made an unsuccessful attempt to re-establish contact with the task force. At 3:45 a.m. on June 19th, a low-flying aircraft passed close over the submerged submarine, prompting an immediate crash dive. Though the plane wasn't seen, the roar of its engines was clearly heard from the conning tower as it passed from starboard to port. Lieutenant Costler, the officer on deck, appeared pale and almost speechless upon entering the control room. Throughout the day, Cavalla continued to spot aircraft at various distances. At 10:39 a.m., a group of 4 small planes was seen circling low about 15 miles away. Soon after, sounds of surface ships came from that same direction. Masts began to appear on the distant horizon beneath the planes, and sonar operators reported the presence of more vessels beyond what could be seen through the periscope. Costler ordered the crew to battle stations and cautiously advanced toward the enemy formation. The next periscope view revealed a surprising scene. 4 ships, including a large aircraft carrier, flanked by 2 cruisers on the port bow, and a destroyer about 1,000 yards to starboard. Cavalla had stumbled upon one of the task forces from the first mobile fleet. This group included the carriers Shōkaku, Zuikaku, and Taiho, the 3 largest in Ozawa's armada, along with 3 cruisers and 7 destroyers. Costler invited the executive and gunnery officers to help identify the carrier. They confirmed it as a Shōkaku-class ship. The vessel Cavalla was tracking turned out to be Shōkaku herself. Launched in August 1941, she displaced over 32,000 tons when fully loaded, had a crew of 1,660, and could operate up to 72 aircraft. Faced with a rapidly unfolding situation, Kostler made quick decisions. He recognized the destroyer Urikaze on the carrier's starboard beam as a potential threat, but chose to focus on the carrier. Observations through the periscope revealed a large radar mast atop the foremast and a prominent Japanese ensign. Aircraft were being recovered, and the forward flight deck was crowded with planes, at least 30, possibly more. Unbeknownst to Kostler, another submarine, Albacore, had earlier struck Ozawa's flagship Taiho with a torpedo, inflicting what was thought to be minimal damage. Taiho continued its advance, but later exploded and sank due to inadequate damage control. At 11:18 a.m., with Shōkaku 1,200 yards away, Kostler ordered a salvo of 6 torpedoes set to a depth of 15 feet. Though undetected, he was wary of the nearby destroyer. He noted the destroyer's bow angle was 0, and its range was about 1,500 yards. As the submarine submerged, the final 2 torpedoes were fired. About 50 seconds after the first torpedo launch, a powerful explosion was heard, followed by 2 more at 8-second intervals. Kostler believed the last 3 torpedoes had missed. He ordered evasive maneuvers and prepared for the counterattack. By the time Shōkaku's lookouts spotted the incoming torpedoes, it was too late. They struck midships and near the bow. The ship began listing and dropped out of formation with Urikaze standing guard. Kostler guided Cavalla into a deep dive. Within 2 minutes, the first depth charges exploded nearby. 2 volleys of 4 charges detonated dangerously close, but the submarine avoided serious damage. A destroyer passed directly overhead at 11:44 a.m., but dropped no charges. Cavalla's crew remained silent, enduring the tense attack. Initially, 3 destroyers hunted them, but by an hour and a half in, only 1 remained. No sonar pings were detected. By 1:30 p.m., it appeared that Cavalla was slipping away. Depth charges were still exploding, but at greater distances. Around this time, their only working sound detection system picked up loud water noises near the attack site. Less than half an hour later, Kostler began to bring the sub to periscope depth. Sporadic charges could still be heard in the distance, and the sounds from the torpedo strike persisted. At exactly 2:08 p.m., 4 massive explosions echoed from the attack direction. These weren't depth charges or bombs. The rumbling lasted for several seconds. Cavalla reached periscope depth about 15 minutes later, but rain squalls limited visibility. Japanese destroyers had dropped 106 depth charges in total, with 56 exploding dangerously close. Just before 7 p.m., Cavalla surfaced and began moving away from the area. Over an hour later, Kostler sent a message to Pearl Harbor, reporting 3 torpedo hits on a Shōkaku-type carrier, describing the depth charge barrage and the subsequent loud explosions. He concluded with confidence that the vessel had been sunk. Shōkaku had played a major role in early wartime operations, including Pearl Harbor and the battles of Coral Sea and Santa Cruz. Yet, her demise was barely recorded in official Japanese Navy logs. While Cavalla's captain reported 3 torpedo hits, some Japanese survivors insisted there had been 4. It's believed the blasts breached a fuel tank, sparking a fire that was initially contained. Despite efforts to save her, the carrier eventually succumbed to cataclysmic explosions, likely due to detonated bomb magazines or ignited fuel vapors. She sank, taking 1,272 crew members with her. Around 570 survivors were rescued by the cruiser Yahagi and destroyers Urikaze and Hatsuzuki. Though subjected to intense depth charging, Cavalla escaped with minor damage. 2 sonar units were burned out and a ventilation pipe flooded. It was a small price for the major achievement of sinking a Japanese carrier. The submarine continued its patrol through June and was later ordered to Saipan. On July 1st, at 2:30 p.m., Cavalla met with the destroyer Philip, which escorted her to Saipan. As dawn broke, the 2 vessels approached the island, revealing a dramatic scene. Nearly every class of warship was visible. One side of the island was cloaked in smoke, and the sounds of battle rang clearly. Cavalla anchored off the southwest side of Saipan, joining a varied fleet. Kostler noted that Japanese aircraft mostly attacked at night, but the crew remained vigilant. At 1:10 p.m., Cavalla took on fuel from the tanker Kennebago and received visitors, including staff from Admirals Spruance, Turner, and Hill, along with 6 war correspondents and a photographer. Kostler fielded many questions about the submarine's attack on the Japanese fleet. An hour later, the visitors departed, and Cavalla prepared to leave. Kostler recalled his time in Saipan as one of the most memorable experiences of his life, witnessing fierce combat from a close vantage point. Cavalla completed her first war patrol on August 3rd, after 64 days at sea. She remained at Majuro for the following month for rest, training, and maintenance. The Battle of the Philippine Sea had been a devastating blow to the Japanese Navy. U.S. forces called it the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot due to the disproportionate air combat losses. The Japanese lost Taiho and Shōkaku to submarines, and a third carrier, Hiyo, along with hundreds of aircraft. Many other vessels were damaged. In the war's final stages, Cavalla was assigned to rescue missions off Japan's coast. She entered Tokyo Bay on August 31st and remained there through Japan's official surrender on September 2nd, 1945. She completed 6 war patrols and is credited with sinking 4 Japanese ships. Still, her first patrol and the destruction of Shōkaku remained her most significant achievement.